There are two pieces of hardware to consider when running Adobe Premiere Pro. The first is the type of computer that you're going to be using to run Premiere on. The second is the type of storage device you're going to be using to store your files and footage that you're going to be using for your edit. For the computer, Adobe Premiere can run on both Mac OS and Windows. For a Mac, you need to be running Mac OS version 10.13 or later. For Windows, you need to be running Microsoft Windows 10 version 1803 or later. These are the minimum system requirements to run Adobe Premiere version 14.3. Increasing any of these would improve the performance of Premiere. This is what I have in the main computer I use for editing, and it works really well. The second piece of hardware you're going to need is some fast external storage. For best performance, I recommend that you store all of the files you're going to be using for your edit on a separate external hard disk drive that is separate from the computer's main hard drive. The reason for this has to do with the distribution of work across the devices. When the main drive in your computer is reading and writing all of the files necessary to run the operating system and all the other programs your computer is running, it's operating at a certain workload. Now add on top of that all the video files Premiere is trying to play back in real time, and you could easily start to overburden a drive. This can cause choppy or laggy playback inside of Premiere. By moving some of the workload off onto a separate external drive, we can increase the efficiency of both devices and improve the performance of playback inside of Premiere. Hard disk drives, or HDDs, come in several different types. Small external drives work great for single projects or several small projects. They're also great for transporting projects to work remotely with, or to work on a different computer, or to make a copy of to share with somebody to work collaboratively. You can find 1 to 2 terabyte portable hard drives easily on places like Amazon. When looking for these, you want to make sure you find the drives that are labeled as 7200 RPM. This is the speed of the drive, and it directly affects how fast Premiere can read those files from the drive on playback. When using external drives, you want to be looking at ones that use a connection speed of USB 3 or faster. Thunderbolt 3 or USB-C are perfect. Another great solution for storage are RAIDs. A RAID is an array of several hard drives formatted or striped together to behave as one hard drive. These work really well for really large projects or a high volume of small projects. When trying to figure out what size RAID to purchase, one thing to keep in mind is the RAID configuration. RAID 5 is a common RAID configuration used for video editing. It utilizes partial redundancy across all of the drives to protect you from drive failure. If a drive should fail, you can pull it out and replace it with a new drive. The data can be rebuilt using the existing data on the other drives. This redundant data uses up some of the capacity of the drive. For example, a 32 terabyte RAID formatted in RAID 5 would equal 24 terabytes of usable space. A third option for storage is a relatively newer piece of technology known as solid-state drives, or SSDs. These offer a couple of advantages. One, because it's flash memory, the read and write speed on these is incredibly fast. And two, because there are no moving parts inside, the rate of failure is very low. The big disadvantage with solid-state drives is their price versus capacity. An 8 terabyte SSD RAID from Otherworld Computing will run you about $2,000. For that same price, you can get a 56 terabyte hard disk drive RAID. Solid-state drives are getting cheaper, but for now, the most cost-effective solution is still fast hard disk drives.